right, let's see if we are live. Are we live? 80% sure. This is not pre-recorded. And never forgetty, Blitz is spaghetti.
白岩学園3年 B 組の皆さん、こんにちは。
All right, good morning. So, today is another wonderful day in the neighborhood. Just checking everything to make sure that we're all good. Okay, there we are. Outstanding. Anyhow, today I had like 2 or 3 topics, but I mean, I don't know. It's been I can't explain it. It's kind of weird. I remembered now what I wanted to do, so I'm going to go and set that up right now, even though it kind of already is set up. Yeah, there's, I'm sure everyone is aware of this. There have been some very peculiar things that have been floating around on Twitter over the past, say, 24 hours, and honestly, I'd never known about this one. I mean, because everyone's seen the cannibalism thing that's been wandering around. For some reason, they're pushing cannibalism, which, I mean, you keep thinking that they can't go any further because it's just too outlandish, and yet they're now like, oh, no. Actually, we're going to go ahead and formally start moving into actual, not even barbarians are more civilized than what these people are talking about. Pre-barbaric. I mean, just feral, animalistic craziness. For those who may not be aware, there have been several publications over the past, say, week or so that have all talked about how cannibalism is the final taboo and how humans could adapt to cannibalism. What do you say to that? What does one really say to that? I don't know. And that's, oddly enough, this is very difficult to explain or express because, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, I've known about cannibalism within the elite circles for the past, say, decade or so. I understand that these people are insane. Like, actually insane. Like Nero insane. Like lead-poisoned drinking water, making your brain misfire batshit crazy insanity. I am aware of this. I have been exposed to it. It's horrible, but bad things happen, okay? But I expect it in exactly the same way that I expect that they're going to move directly into necrophilia and incest and God knows what else. I mean, they're talking about maggot paste. At any rate, the thing that surprised me, and this one actually did surprise me. I'm not kidding, it actually did surprise me. The only time I'd ever heard of anything similar was from a book called, I think it was called Geek Love, which was released, I think, in the mid-90s or maybe early 90s. And the novel Geek Love focused on some carnies, and amongst the carnies was a young man named Arnie. And Arnie was born, I think Arnie was born without hair, but I don't remember. Anyway, he didn't have arms or legs. Instead, he just had hands where his arms should have been. So basically, just imagine hands attached to your shoulders, and he had feet attached to where his legs should have been. So just imagine feet where your pelvis ends. And he had to be wheeled around on a wheelchair and basically fed and whatnot. I think he was called Flipper Boy in the novel. And Arnie ended up creating some kind of a peculiar cult around him. The carnival went to multiple locations, and for some reason, the carnival got big, and Arnie became the center of it for reasons. Within the novel, I'm sure it made sense at the time. I haven't read it since the early 2000s. At any rate, one of the principal deals with the cult was that people were to attempt to more closely resemble Arnie, to become more like Arnie. And the way that they would do this is they would amputate their arms and their legs so that they had to be pushed around in wheelchairs like Arnie. And it was a matter of pride how much you had amputated to see how like Arnie you could be. And floating around on Twitter, I only just noticed it maybe at most 48 hours ago. I'm really, really late to this game. Floating around on Twitter, I happened to see, I think I heard about this like 48 hours ago. There was like some kind of a furry who decided he created an accident, in quotation marks, accident. He created an accident in which his arms would be, hands rather, would be non-usable and would have to be amputated so that he could have paws instead of hands. And again, I heard about that at most 72 hours ago, I think. And just today, I happened to see photographs of a guy with his hands completely amputated, kissing his lover, male lover, and that was on Twitter. And lo, I found a thread, and on the thread, I happened to see comments about what these people were doing, how they would go about it, and the word that they used for these people that do these things to themselves was nuggets, like a chicken McNugget, where you just have a unit and that's all it is. It's just, we all know what chicken nuggets look like. And it reminded me of Arnie. It reminded me of Arnie from Geek Love. At any rate, Jonathan Pohl, this is real. This is completely real. I found on Twitter earlier today, earlier this evening, it might have been early afternoon. Anyway, I found photographs of a man's hands. They were bloated. I mean bloated. Really, genuinely bloated. And they were purple black. And they had to be, they were only that way to the wrist. Below the wrist, completely healthy. But they were purple and bloated. And I mean like double, possibly triple the size of a normal human hand. And the comment was something to the effect of, well, I guess this has to happen. Major, my life is about to get interesting, or something to that effect. And there were, basically congratulations, not on that one, but on other associated comment chains where people were talking about how they had this operation done to them, and how something about like they would look, this is, take it with a grain of salt anyway, they would like look down at their stumps and they would get horny at the thought. And then other people were commenting and saying, the thought of you looking at your stumps getting horny makes me horny. And you're like, oh my God. I want to believe that this is fake. I really want to believe that it's fake. And it's possible. Okay, so let me come all the way back from that. It is technically possible that this is a psyop. It's technically possible. But with all of the absolute batshit crazy things that are going on right now, this isn't that outlandish. I remember watching what was it? It was some kind of a parade. It was a gay pride parade in some city that I don't recall, and in the middle of the parade, you can't make this up. I defy anyone to make up such a thing as what I am about to say. In the middle of this parade, a guy had attached to his head some kind of a strap device that had a cup that I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it was shaped sort of like basically a cup that would have been an extension or a protrusion of his lower jaw. And this guy was walking around on all fours, and another guy went up to that guy, pulled out his dick, and urinated in the cup so that the man was forced to drink the urine. This was in public. This was on a public street. This was not in private. This was on a street in broad daylight. So when I talk about how these furries are dealing in amputations, let's recall that there are people that have gotten plastic surgery to look like aliens. I have read about this. I read about a guy who actually rubber banded his genitals, his complete genitals, so that they would wither and fall off of him. So that the only thing that he had was just a small stump where everything used to be. When I talk about the absolute insanity. I mean, for me, this is like Lovecraftian horror stuff. I mean, things that I never would have thought were realistic in terms of human behavior. I, at no point, and of course, in 4chan threads or whatever, maybe 10 years ago, you would have talked about how crazy you would have talked about behaviors like this as though they were utterly unrealistic. And the joke would have been, this is something that no sane person would do, and this is retarded and silly. And yet, here we are, in the current year, people are doing this. That the guy, I'm pretty sure it was a guy that had the Nosferatu getup, in like a dollar store, which was a combination of horrifying and depressing at the same time. Anyway, yeah, nutty things are going on. Genuinely nutty things are going on. And I really think that the only thing that's keeping this ship going, the only thing that's keeping all of this afloat, is the fact that people can afford to get the next meal. I mean, seriously, when I think about some of these things, I genuinely am disturbed by some of these things, and I would like to see some kind of a corrective force say, no more. We will now disallow this to take place. I'm not seeing anything like that. So the mentality that is allowing for and indeed encouraging young children, prepubescent children, to permanently mutilate their bodies in the name of transgenderism, that is allowing for people to, and not yet encouraging, but allowing for people to create situations in which their limbs must be amputated in order to satisfy some outlandish sexual fetish. I mean, holy cow. These people, this psychological program that exists now under the auspices of tolerance and diversity, this is training young people, little kids, in how to think and how to behave, what to do, decision making, how to relate to people, how to talk to people, how to judge people. And those little kids are going to take these thoughts into the future. And that is what really upsets me, is that I want a reverse course. And at the moment, the only thing that I see is forward escape. And the problem with forward escape is that we move into Weimar Republic, post-Weimar Republic, and all that entails, all that implies. And some of that is very, very unpleasant. Anyone that has read, I just got about halfway through a thread about the Weimar Republic, which is a hell of a thing. I'm trying to learn more about Spain circa 1930s and the Weimar Republic, just so that I can have an understanding of a possible future. And if we chart America on such a path, I mean, Mike, I don't want to deal with that. I don't see any way out of it, and that's really, really upsetting. Basically, what I'm saying is, just buckle up, guys. Just buckle up. Let's see here. Jonathan Pohl says, don't talk about any of this stuff at lunch on Saturday. Do not worry, Jonathan Pohl. Lunch will always only ever be lunch. At any rate, I think I'm going to settle down to some of this here talk, and I think, what are we looking at here? This is a... Okay, very good. I'm going to play a track, and then I'm going to come back. So here we are. This is because I just want to cool off for a little bit, for just a moment. I'm going to have a little bit of water and a nice little cool down, and then we're going to learn a little bit about Purim. So at any rate, here is Hey Blondie by Eamon Tobin. This is off of his 2002 album entitled Back From Out Where, which is an outstanding album, by the way. This is his first album after he left his jazz fusion phase, and I like it. This is actually a really great album, and I kind of wish that I had, because Hey Blondie is a part of like 3 tracks that go together really well, and I kind of regret not putting them together in sequence. But at any rate, this is Hey Blondie by Eamon Tobin, circa 2002. Great track. All right, so that was good old Eamon Tobin. Yeah, that album, I really like that album, in all honesty. It's great. What do you say to it? It's just great. Anyhow, there we are. Okay. All right, so we've got now. I was looking at the book. The return date is the 29th, so it looks as though I've only got this for another couple of days. So we are going to excuse me. We're gonna power through. See what happens. Where are we? Oh, that's funny. All right, we're gonna power through, and we're going to learn a little bit more about Purim, because that's what we do here on Ekelux live streams. Now, this is a book that we are reading, by we I mean me, entitled Purim, or The Feast of Esther. And nice nugget. Oh my God! Imagine saying to someone, "Hello, my little nugget." How terrifying. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, for those who are not aware, the Purim celebration is one of the two biggies for fellow whites. It goes Hanukkah and Purim. And Purim is based off of the book of Esther. Everyone should probably read the book of Esther just to understand. I think it's terribly written. I don't think it's a good story. I think that it's a badly written story. There's no other way to say it. It's just badly freaking written. But it's still the basis of a major celebration. And amongst the things that strike me with regards to the Purim celebration, chief, is that it is the celebration, in part, of the mass murder of 75,000 people by the hands of the Jewish people. And mind you, I'm only quoting the Bible. I am in no way doing anything other than quoting the Bible. This is what the Bible says, and this is what is celebrated on Purim. So, let's continue to read a little bit about the history of Purim. Here we go. I think I have to sneeze, but I'm not sure. Should. I guess I did. I had to sneeze. I'll be darned. Alright, continuing. Beginning. Judah ben Solomon let's see, where were we? What were we talking about earlier? Oh no. The book is ancient. I think it was written in like 1933 or something like that. I have no idea when the last time it was opened. And I think some of the dust, I might have inhaled some of the dust. That's really upsetting. Oh man. Alright. This is what I go through in order to stream for you people, so I hope everyone's respecting it. At any rate, let's go ahead and start and see what happens. I don't recall what it was. Something about... Oh no, it's happening again. No? Okay. I think it stopped. Okay, good. Alright, let's try again. I forgot what was being talked about earlier in the book, so... Excuse me. I may just have to bear through this, so I'm going to continually apologize as I continue to sneeze. At any rate, I'm just going to read and hope for the best. So here we go. Judah ben Solomon al-Harizi of the Spanish school, who died about 1230, was gifted with an equal command of Hebrew and Arabic. Harizi expressed his admiration for one of the gems of Arabic literature, the Maqamat of Hariri, first by translating the work into Hebrew, a task which he performed in a masterly manner. I remember reading this from last night. And then by writing an imitation of this work straight away in Hebrew. That's right, I finished down to this second paragraph. Okay, yeah, I know where I am now. But I'll continue reading so that we just have an idea of where we were from yesterday. Okay, continuing. Al-Harizi devotes a chapter to the delights of wine, which, though not written specifically for Purim, is nonetheless a poem for that festival, remembering that one of the elements of Purim is that you are supposed to get so drunk that you cannot tell the difference between blessing Mordecai and cursing Haman. So this is actually relevant. Continuing. The next product of Purim literature is one of the earliest parodies. Sometime before 1276, part of the Passover evening service, as it was known in the contemporary French ritual, was parodied and later revised by one Menahem ben Aaron. As Zunz says, just names, they're just giving us names. Quote, this parody was probably not intended for liturgical use, end quote. It is a collection of, oh gosh. Good heavens. That's very upsetting. Oh, geez, yeah, thanks, Tom. I do hope that this somehow passes. It's very, very obnoxious. Alright, continuing. It is a collection of captions and maxims urging all good gems to eat well and to drink plenteously on the night of Purim. The style is bright and the humor fresh. A better-known poet of France, Abraham Bedersi, addressed a poem on Purim to his friend and physician, Maestri David de Caslari, parenthetical i.e. of Castellarium or Kylar in the department of Harult, end parenthetical, physician at Narbonne. Very dry stuff. I'm going to start doing some Bible readings, side note, and I'm going to see if I can locate a relatively inexpensive copy of the King James. That's the only Bible that I think I'm going to be reading is going to be King James, but that's going to come in the future. The idea here is that even though I enjoy reading about Purim and I enjoy reading the Talmud and all this good stuff, I kind of think it would be nice to go with a Bible reading, New Testament. I want to hear about the New Testament. That's my big thing. The real covenant, not the old defunct covenant that is being discussed here. At any rate, continuing. At this period, Narbonne of Carcassonne were the centers of culture in southern France. The poem is no longer extant, but the letter which it accompanied is still to be found in a MS period, which once belonged to the family of Bedersi, of whom David was very fond. A little later, Emmanuel ben Solomon, parenthetical 1270 to 1330 Anno Domini, and parenthetical, of Rome, shocked Orthodox Jewry by writing his 27 compositions in the Holy Tongue. Very intense. The Marberot show traces of the style, but not always of the genius of his friend Dante. Oh my, that's some praise. His poem for Purim was republished separately in 1778. The Mari to Purim of the 13th century gave that impetus to parody in Provence, which caused it to flourish in the 14th century. Sometime between 1319 and 1322, Kalonymos ben Kalonymos, the, quote, man of Rome, end quote, I didn't know there was a man of Rome, and I didn't know his name was Kalamos ben Kalamos, published his famous, I didn't know anything, I've never heard of it, I don't know why it's famous, Maseket Purim, or Tractate of Purim, in which he uses the Talmudic method of exegesis humorously to expound the nature of Purim's celebration. I can just imagine a lot of haughty guffawing. Before 1332, Levi ben Gershon, parenthetical 1288 to 1344, end parenthetical, rationalist, philosopher, astronomer, and mathematician of Orange, Perpignan and Avignon, wrote his Megalat Setarim about the same time as the Sefer HaBakbuk, which was published. Okay. These three books and the hymn for the night of Purim are important for two reasons. On the one hand, they are sources for Purim customs and general information concerning the life of gems at this period, and on the other hand, they strike out a new line in Hebrew letters. Very important. The Masaket Purim, in its fifth and final version in the 17th century, and the completely revised Purim prayers of the same period are evidence of their continuous popularity. In all the later versions, the parody is broader. By means of Talmudic method, a number of fantastic laws for Purim, couched in dignified Hebrew, were evolved. Israel Davidson of New York translates part of the parody on the first Mishnah of Pesachim. Quote, Mishnah, on the eve of the 14th of Adar, water should be searched and removed from houses and from courtyards. All places where water is not usually kept need not be searched. Gemara, where is the biblical authority for this law? It is to be found in the scriptures. So shalt thou put the bad away from the midst of thee, and nothing is bad but water, for it is written, water is bad. End quote. Apparently that's from 2 Kings 2:19. What the hell are they talking about? Okay, so that was a weird quote, and I'm going to temporarily pause because I'd like to blow my nose and have a little bit of water to hopefully get some of this, whatever it is, out of my nostrils. This is really upsetting. Where are we? We're going to remove you. Yes, I was going to set up one more track, but I got distracted by things. So let's find another track that is fun to listen to, that everybody likes. I don't want to play that. That'll give me a strike. I'm definitely not playing that. Well, I guess I could play. I could play a little bit more Eamon Tobin, but I'm not sure that I want to. He's pretty intense, so I think I'm not going to play any of that. I think what I'll do is I'm going to play some super awesome rock music. I think that's what I'm going to play. One moment. I'm going to have to get some. I mean, if we're going to play rock music, I want to have something. Okay. I think we're good. I think. There we are. Okay, I just want to make sure that everyone's in the correct spot here. Okay, sorry about that. Just getting everything completely set. Okay, at any rate, so I'm going to go ahead and clear my nose, and here we are. I think this track will actually speak for itself.
Crystal night. Everybody grab a torch to light. Everybody needs somebody. Join the party. The kids are alright today. Now grab your partner, do-si-do. Is a sold-out show. Humanity is a nowhere scene. When everybody has an AR-15. Everybody needs somebody. Join the party. The kids are alright today.
Alright, so that was... I want to say that was Bad Religion. I'm not completely sure yet. Let's check it right now. Yeah, Bad Religion. That was Bad Religion. And that was obviously their attempt at like anti-fascist music or something, which is funny because like it's actually really catchy. And if you just like listen to the lyrics without the progressive lens, like 80% of those lyrics, like I kind of agree with, you know. We love God, we love our women, we love tradition. Like, what's the fuck is wrong with that? Like, that's all, those are good things. Yes. You know, what are you talking about? Anyway, alright, so let's get back over to, I don't know if that's the original singer. I never followed Bad Religion, so I have no idea. I will freely admit that the only alternative group, you know, like the sort of K-rock stuff, for those from Southern California, you know what K-rock is. Those who do not know of Southern California radio, K-rock used to be really big, like in the 80s and 90s, and they used to play like new wave, and then they got into alternative and grunge and all this good stuff. I stopped listening to K-rock sometime in the late 90s because pop music started to suck pretty fucking hard, and that's right around when Nickelback was becoming big, and they started playing Nickelback, and I was like, alright, I'm fucking done with this. This is stupid. Anyway, the only group from that era that I actually actively liked was like Soundgarden. For some reason, I have no idea why, but Soundgarden. The weird thing is that like Chris Cornell, he sings a lot like Axl Rose. I fucking hate Axl Rose. Yeah, I know. Some people are gonna be like, "How dare you defame the name of Axl Rose?" I get it. And let me just come back from that from a moment and say I have, probably because of nostalgia, I've found myself liking some of those old Guns N' Roses tracks, but I do think that a lot of that is colored due to nostalgia. Anyway, one would think that because I don't like Guns N' Roses all that much, that I should also dislike Soundgarden because Axl Rose and Chris Cornell have a very similar singing style. But for some reason, I don't know why, but I'm willing to let it all go with regards to the late, great Chris Cornell. The tracks were just good. They were just great. Soundgarden put out some fantastic albums. Anyhow, alright, let's get back over to, where are we? Oh yeah, we were just at the quote, and I don't know, oh wow, oh holy cow. I think I'm going to finish out this chapter because I only have like a couple of pages to go. Bad Motorfinger was brilliant. I freaking love. Now, of course, my favorite, because it was the first album of theirs that I listened to, I loved Super Unknown. And I can't help it. Yes, I know that it's a bunch of that silly Gen X quasi-mysticism. I understand that, but I just happen to like that track a lot. Anyway, let's continue. In the same humorous strain, it is deduced from the Bible that on Purim we must avoid passing a stream and must remain indoors if rain should fall. Occasionally, the humor... That's really funny. They don't like water. This was discussed in Nosferatu. No. In The Shadow of Darkness. In the movie Shadow of Darkness, which was based on the making of Nosferatu, Shadow of Darkness starred Willem Dafoe and Carrie Elwes. God, back when Carrie Elwes still had a career. And Shadow of Darkness involved the vampire Nosferatu not wanting to go on water for some reason, and there are hints, if I recall correctly, in fairy tale lore involving like demons and monsters that can't cross water. That's really funny. Alright, so let's continue. Water bad. Occasionally the humor becomes... That's really weird because that suggests something. I mean, there are properties to water that are very important, and indeed our bodies are largely a combination of water transport systems and also electrical impulse systems. Just add salt to water, boom, you've got conductivity. I can't help but think that there's something in there on an energetic level. Because moving water, it's suggested that the pyramids, they were actually some kind of latent power source or something. I don't know what. And it had to do with there was a river that flowed next to and also under the pyramids. And this running water would have had something to do with the possibility of not power generation in the sense that we mean it, with like lights and computers, but something not dissimilar It's just funny. It's just really funny. Keep away from streams and from falling rain. Both of those are water that falls. And if seen from a very specific standpoint, it suggests an interruption of some kind of energetic program. That's funny. Anyway, occasionally the humor becomes grotesque. Quote, when Rabbi Haman drank wine on Purim, and a drop fell on the ground, he fell on his knees and licked it up, dust and all. End quote. When Rabbi Shachran went to sleep on the night of Purim, he suspended a bag of wine over his head, from which the wine dripped through a puncture into his mouth. End quote. Okay, I guess that's supposed to be hilarious, but that's fine. About the middle of the 17th century, there was published in a similar style the humorous letter for Purim, addressed to the mighty in drink, to whom a plea is made for hospitality. Two collections of Purim poems of merit saw the light in this century. In 1619, at Mantua, there appeared the Shamhat Purim, which was reprinted at Amsterdam in 1650, and in the same year Joseph ben Gershon Conchio's Glory of Purim, a work of no great merit, saw light. Judah Leon of Modena, parenthetical 1571 to 1648, and parenthetical, in character not unlike Benvenuto Cellini, but nonetheless a staunch defender of the Talmud, parodied for Purim a poem of Ibn Ezra against gamblers. As Leon was an inveterate gambler, he writes on the subject from heart. Menahem of Lonzano, a biblical scholar and Gamarian who died after 1658 in Jerusalem, wrote a poem in honor of Purim, calling on his friends to join him in the feast of wine. An anonymous publication at Venice in 1700 for Purim was so popular that it went into 3 editions. The book is in Italian and Hebrew verse and opens with a Hebrew invocation, quote, come, my brothers, come, my friends, and take my poems for your delight. On the night of Purim, when you eat the festival meal in the company of your friends, sing my songs. The living God has given us redemption, so let the poor and needy eat at a well-laden table, end quote. It's a hell of a thing. All right. During the 18th century, there was a glut of Purim books. Perhaps the most gifted of these writers was Judah Leb ben Zaev of Krakow, parenthetical 1764 to 1811, end parenthetical, a writer, grammarian, and lexicographer who traveled over Germany in his search for knowledge. His satire for Purim is a book of devotion for lovers of wine and music, in language that vividly recalls the Paiutic style. Ben Zaev describes the thrilling incidents in the history of Purim and the end of the ill-fated Haman. He depicts in glowing colors the feast of Purim and neatly turns the Bible phrase to adorn his descriptions. We venture to render some of his verses which describe the emotions of a drunken man. So we've got 3 verses here, and I'm going to go ahead and read the 3 verses, and I'll indicate the when the verses begin and end so that we all know. All right, so here's the beginning of verse 1. My gullet is parched, and my palate is burned. Earth hath not water to quench such a thirst. My head is wine-sodden, my senses are turned, drained all my moisture, my vigor dispersed. It's the end of the first verse. Second verse begins now. Weak grow my steps, my feet slip and are smitten. Shorter my paces, my feet trip and are hidden. The light from my eyes has fled with their feeling. Then up rise the walls and about me revolve, and the house with its pillars upon me devolve. They totter, they shake, they reel, and they quake, till I cry that I've drunk pure rolling and railing. It's the end of that verse. Okay, so now we're going to go to verse 3. Turn ye away, leave me, I'd sleep. And find rest and new strength in my bed. Then, when I wake, I'll seek and drink deep of the redness that's wine, and the wine that's deep red. And that's the end of the last one. Well, I'll be darned. Let's continue. Looks like we've got 1, 2. Oh, wow, 2 paragraphs. Nice. And then we're at the end of this chapter. With the revival of Hebrew in the 19th century, a mass of Purim literature was produced. Poems, short stories, plays, feuilletons were printed separately and also filled pages of Jewish journals published in Adar. That's weird that it was revived. Revival of Hebrew. Oh, Hebrew is what was revived in the 19th century. So I suppose it was just defunct for a little while. All right, continuing. Many have great merit. Peretz Abramovich and Shalom Ash have been inspired by Purim. The late David Frischman, for instance, takes up his pen for Haman against a sea of calumniation. I guess I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to worry about that word. Is Haman, forsooth, an anti-Semite? He knows nothing about torturing the gems. An anti-Semite knows nothing? All right. A mere massacre indeed. Today, there are real anti-Semites, men of power and authority, but Haman was some minor minister whose rise to power was as prosaic as it was usual. He presented the king. See, that's. I'm sorry, but I'm calling bullcrap on that, because if Purim is supposed to be so, important, then I can't help but think that the villain of Purim must also be important. To say that he was an average villain suggests that Purim is the besting of an average mind or an average foe, which means that you're not really doing your best. That means that you are not at your best. You are only at your best when you are defeating a foe that is so overwhelming that you may not survive at all. To refer to Haman as a minor, to say some minor minister whose rise to power was prosaic and usual? No, absolutely not. I'm sorry, but that, again, this okay, whatever. I'm not going to gripe. I'm not going to gripe. I'm going to move on. Okay. He presented the king with an attractive slave girl and found himself prime minister. In a straightforward manner, he attempted to kill the gems and was unsuccessful. Surely the man lacked subtlety, and so, David Fishman concludes triumphantly, he was more a friend than an enemy to Israel. Vashti, too, is hailed as the first suffragette, the first martyr in this noble cause. For all this latter literature, the source of inspiration in the Bible story elaborated by the Midrashic comments upon it. The dependence on these sources has been such that a marked unity is seen to subsist throughout all that literature, which has continued to delight Israel on the Feast of Purim ever since that festival was instituted. All right, so there we are. That was the last chapter in the book on Purim. Now, we've only got 3 days. I'm not sure if I can read that much more of that book over the next 3 days. That might be basically it. So, we learned a lot. I'm going to go ahead and just call it out. That whole thing about the water, that was really interesting. So I'm gonna think on that. Anyway, it's midnight now, and I'm going to kick rocks because I'm super duper tired, and that's about that. I'm gonna play an album, but I think I'm just gonna play one of the shorter ones. So I'm gonna try to find something that's relatively short. Where are we? Yes, that's a good place to start. That is way too long. We're definitely not going to play that. Yeah, I think I want to play something shorter. I think I'm just going to go with Haircuts for Men. I think I'm going to go with Haircuts for Men because it's easy and I don't have to think about it. So that's going to be the plan. So here we are. This is, what am I gonna play that one? No, I think I'm gonna play, You Can Trust Me, or 010492V2. I think I'm gonna go 010429V2. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. And I'll play You Can Trust Me perhaps tomorrow. So, at any rate, I am going to do that. There we are. All right, guys. So, I'm going to go ahead and do my normal thanking of everyone. Really, though, thank you, everyone, for popping by. And I absolutely... we're going to see some real stuff go down with these red flag laws. I highly recommend that anyone who is into it find some way to exercise your Second Amendment rights and make it be known to your local government that you will vote for them if and only if they are ardent supporters of your civil liberties, including your God-given right to keep and bear arms, as enshrined in the Second Amendment, which is under complete attack by filthy communists who are operating under the banner, the shield of progressivism. At any rate, if you are going to exercise your civil liberty, specifically the one to keep and bear arms, I absolutely recommend that you keep in mind the 4 rules of firearms safety as outlined by Jeff Cooper. Rule number 1, always treat every firearm like it is loaded. Rule number 2, never cover or sweep anything that you are not willing to destroy. Rule number 3, your finger stays off of the trigger until your sights are on target. And the 4th and final rule is be aware of your target and what's beyond it. Safety first. And with that, I am going to get myself ready. I'm going to finish flossing, brush my teeth. Everybody needs to floss. And there we are. All right, guys. I'm going to let out, and I'll see everyone in the chats.